All right, gentlemen, welcome back to the latest episode of Midlife Lately. I am the editor-in-chief of Midlife Male, Jon Finkel. I don't know if he's to my right or left, depending on what you're watching, is our founder, Greg Scheinman, where we take you behind the scenes of our latest articles, the feedback we got, what went viral, what was a dud. In this case, we got a lot of visceral feedback because it comes from a topic that I have experienced personally that you've probably noticed in the media, and that is the mainstream media's treatment of midlife men. So in this particular story, in Greg's column is how I see it from last week, he was talking about his experience being interviewed by the New York Times. Now I have to put a caveat here. I've had a long time bone to pick with the New York Times. I wrote for them for 2 or 3 pieces. This is back in like 2000 and whatever, 3 or 4 or 5. And it was the single worst writing experience of my life. The editors have agendas before the story is written. They change things without telling you, and then you as the writer are on the hook for these things. So I don't know this woman who interviewed you, but I know for certain that whatever her assignment was, it doesn't matter what this guy says. You shoehorn it into the idea that all midlife men suck and are miserable and are losers. And so if you get an hour with him and he gives you 5 words that suck about midlife male, you use those. So I will use that as the lead in. 2, you are now a prominent midlife male figure. People come to you for your thought leadership and all those things that happen when you run a brand like Midlife Male and do your speaking and have a book and all those things. How did they get in touch with you? And just walk me through how it started, and then we can go through and share with our readers how it ended.
Thank you for the intro. Wow. Okay. We could just jump in faster from now. People know already. They got in touch with me. The writer got in touch with me by email. She sent a submission through our site to get in touch with me. And it was apparently after reading the story that I wrote about empty nesting. And that story had gone, called viral for us, 250 to 60,000, views on Instagram, plus the site and the newsletter and all those other things. And she had come across the article and reached out for a voice in midlife representing men.
Right. An actual person who writes about this stuff and is in the demographic, which they have none of, by the way.
And it comes across in the outreach, and I don't know if it's fully bait and switch or what exactly it is, or if it's editorial, or it's, hey, they have the story written ahead of time and they need to plug these things in. I don't really know, and quite frankly, I don't really care anymore at this point. But it was positioned in a manner of not necessarily positive or negative, but sharing the experience of what empty nesting is like. And empty nesting in middle age, and the questions were around the positives, the negatives, the trade-offs, like the real life experiences that we talk about and love to talk about, particularly from a male perspective. But this didn't matter to me whether it was just human perspective,
Right.
about in there. And we talked for 40 minutes about transition, changes, parenting, growth, evolution, positivity, the double-edged sword of yes, while you are sad to see your children move out of the house, you're also excited for your children to be living their lives. The fact that you have actually launched them to the next level and can take a beat and a breath and have done a good job, if you will. And also the positives of what it can do to your relationship, your marriage, your closeness, in your creativity, your career, all of this empty space in a way that comes with empty nesting while you're still deeply connected to your children, your young adults who are now out living their lives. And we talked about all that. The weekly FaceTimes, the visits with the kids, what Kate and I are doing now, and how energizing it is. Back to our premise again of living and leading by example and controlling what you can control. And that there's this wonderful element also to kind of dividing and conquering, each of us, the 4 of us, and then being able to come back together as a family, which is always there, regardless of where we are geographically as well. And I thought it was a really rich and nuanced, deep conversation. I thought actually a lot of questions were good. And what it ended up coming down to is, and in somewhat passing, because it wasn't the primary at all, or the MO of my conversation, was, we were talking about utilization of time, and getting so much time back, and what do we do with it? And one of the things I mentioned was that Kate and I started to see a counselor, and even a social worker. And we thought it would be a good period in our lives, in our relationship, to work on our communication, our connection, our collaboration, because when you've got two other people in the house, it's been a lot of years also working and communicating around the kids, through the kids, all the phases of them growing up.
Yeah.
And in mentioning that we had a good time actually interviewing various therapists to find one that ultimately we felt was good for us and put that on our calendar and go to see a counselor, then go to dinner and have like a date night afterwards, and the positive aspects of all of this. That was what got me.
Yeah. Well,
That was what got me when this
all of
came.
that nuance got boiled down in the article to the kids left dot, dot, dot. They're in therapy.
Yes, exactly.
So to me, as I'm reading it, and you know, the way you're introduced into the piece is kind of just like, here's this guy, no mention of the things that you've been doing for Midlife Man, or it's just some guy. And I know the reason from a little inside baseball with these kind of places is if it's a topic that they're interested in being objective about, and truly being objective in terms of being the journalism, who, what, when, where, why, how, all that old school stuff. The editor, and I've been on the other side of it, will say, okay, you got 4 people you interviewed who are pro and positive, the empty, having a great experience. Now you need 4 terrible like experiences or miserable, vice versa. This was like, we got 10 people who think it sucks, and we're just going to say this guy thinks it sucks too. And that's where I knew there was no even appearance of trying to show both sides. And for you, when I was reading your piece the first time, I could sense the frustration because I know you personally, but also the flip side is if no one knows you at all, they're going to be like, this sad sack. This sucks.
Well, it's just another guy in his 50s complaining,
Right.
okay? Complaining about his lot in life now.
Right.
And going off to therapy to try to fix it. You know, to what degree is that a bad marriage, you know, a bad relationship, a bad upbringing even of your children, a lack of identity for yourself and purpose and happiness? All of those things start to kind of, you're like, well, no, what the fuck? It's the exact opposite. It's like, wait a minute. We're traveling, we're writing, we're enjoying, we're exercising, we're hiking, we're all of these different things that can paint midlife and empty nesting in such a positive manner. And it was another unfortunate reminder that that's not really, I guess, what they want to talk about or what maybe moves the needle or sells papers or I don't know what it is. But it seems to me like there's such a kind of an impetus on just the negativity, like in general.
Making guys look bad.
Tearing things down instead of trying to build them up. You know, seeing glasses as half empty instead of seeing them as half full. It's just a pessimistic perspective versus, you know, one of optimism, you know, one of hope, one of possibility, one of our best days being in front of us, not behind us kind of things. And it just like, to me, it just reeks of insecurity and it reeks of like unhappiness and disenchantment on the side of the writer and the paper. And like, it's like, again, I just don't want to wake up every day and write miserable shit and about miserable shit and about miserable people. And like it doesn't.
You have a choice as a journalist, where I spent many years writing all these things, where you can either frame things completely objectively, where you're honestly saying like, and we have this person representing this point of view. But on the flip side, we have this person and this person is fine who disagree. You've read both sides, like you can figure out where you fall on this kind of thing. Or you can go for an aspirational angle, or you can go for sort of the miserable, sad sack angle. And it's a choice you make as a writer based on your own experiences, based on what your editor's telling you, and based on what your readership is and all that. And if you look at the way the piece is framed, and I don't want to, the people who they lump you in with, let's just say they're not people doing high rocks in 29029 and who have take a care in their personal appearance, and there's no need to slander anyone else. But these are not high achieving, motivated, you know, excited people. These people look kind of like they're not happy. You can see a photo of them in the thing and you're like, well, yeah, of course, this is not a happy post-kid situation. And the problem is they should have used you as the other side of the teeter-totter to be like, hey, look at all the fun stuff you could do, an aspirational side of it. But instead, they took the 1.5% of your conversation and made it match the other stuff. And that to me is like, it's really journalistic malpractice.
I guess it is. I mean, I shrug these things off in the manner like we talked about is all press good press, you know, or is bad press bad press, or is bad press still good press? I just come back around to look at the very least, lesson learned. You take all of the lessons that you've learned and continue to learn, and you apply them to how you go forward. That's what we do every day anyway. Did it provide a tremendous opportunity to write a great piece around the experience?
Yeah, of course.
Also, call it the op-ed around, okay, look, here's my response based on how I see it, which is what we love to do all the time. If they choose to showcase kind of the negative stereotype, both in the copy and in the visual images and stuff, you want to put two kind of miserable looking people seated next to each other on a couch, here's the photo of what empty nesting, should look like overall. Well, that's really different from a photo at the top of a mountain living your best life and texting that picture to your kids who are also out living their best lives and putting it in the family group chat. So I just feel, we just got to continue to be true to what we do, write what we want, say what we want the way. Some people are going to get it right. Some people are going to get it wrong. And you know what? It was bad press from a bad organization. I could boil it down to that. Overall, coulda, woulda, shoulda, known better. But it's good press in regards to, hey, we can take it, learn from it, do something better. And it's going to continue to differentiate us from whatever else is out there that wants to take a kind of a different view on it. Go ahead. Like you said, we all have choices, and you can be negative and you can be miserable and you can go down that rabbit hole, and you can want to have the misery loves company kind of mindset and be in that. And we all read it and we go, yeah, that's what it is to me too. Or you can kind of think differently and go, you know what, there's enough of us that don't see it that way. And a growing population of men who are not just committed to throwing in the towel and saying, hey, this is the next phase of my life and it's empty and it sucks and I'm going to let it, and I'm just going to wallow and try to now live vicariously, through my kids from afar. It's doesn't sound like so much fun to me.
Yeah, it's laziness on the part of an editorial staff, which is fine. It's not our problem. It's not our thing. And like you said, the silver lining is we get a glimpse into what those newsrooms think of us, basically, is what it was.
Yeah, well, I you used the term laziness, and I think that again is that's part of the widespread problem.
Think of it. The reason I say lazy, just
in journalism, it's not. I'm saying it's not just in journalism. It's not just in the editorial room. It's general laziness and malaise and conformity and redundancy everywhere. So this is what we do. Yeah. This is how we write. This is what we do. We're not really going to go after proactively something that might be bigger or potentially happier or everything. Because it's, quite frankly, it's harder. We talk about this all the time. It's harder. Okay, to exercise. It's harder to eat well. It's harder to go deeper in the story, and find, something that's inspiring or outside the norm.
See, that's where I'm going to jump in there. That's where I think it's more of a bit. In this particular case, it is an 11-second search for you on Instagram to be like, oh, that's not this guy. It is a 2-second search of Midlife Male to look at any of our issues to be like, this is not what they're talking about here at all. Someone somewhere in the chain of the most prestigious newspaper in the world should be like, actually, we aren't representing anything close to what this guy and what this brand is trying to say.
Look,
and so when I say lazy, I mean actual laziness,
Maybe the ulterior motives are there and they're like, let's get this guy to say something that fits our narrative. Yeah.
Right.
And we can poke holes in that.
Yeah.
And you can always find that. In any you can take any sound bite you want and make it sound however you want it to sound in the context of anything that you're piecing around it, overall in there. Again, you still have people that see men going to therapy or counseling or doing anything as weakness, and you see others that see these things as strengths. There's a whole gap, there's a lot of white space, like we talk about all the time, between how people see things. It can be seen as weakness.
You have a great line in your piece where you say, since when did it become a red flag to proactively work on your marriage and make sure things are in a good place as you move forward? And I read that and I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. They're taking a positive and making it be like, oh, here it goes again, when it's the opposite.
It's It's like I've had guys say to me, "Oh, I can't work out with you. I have to get in shape to work out with you." And it's like, no, you work out to get in shape. You don't get in shape to work out with somebody. Like it's kind of like you don't have to wait until your marriage, your life, your depression is in shambles to go seek help. You can actually get in front of these things.
Yeah,
And
here's the
actually
thing. Yeah.
make it a positive, good experience so you never go into the kind of, valley of despair that exists for so many. And then it
Yeah.
becomes this really heavy climb and lift to try to get out of it. And I mean, that's really all I was trying to share and shine a light on the fact that some of these perceived or stereotypical negatives or turning points in our lives, they're not that. They don't have to be seen that way. They can be seen in a much different manner, positively, proactively, or even how you react to change, empty nesting or otherwise, and what you do about it and how you go about it. And those things to me are all positive choice. They can be very positive choices.
I think that a lot of this comes down to sort of a worldview of you can either play your life on offense or defense. And when you highlight the defensive people, you end up with a lot of miserable, why is this happening? We're in this rut. And that's not me, that's not you. That's really not midlife male at all. And I think it's when people have that, whether it's journalism or anything, but they look at things defensively, they have a hard time understanding the offensive point of view of I don't like this, I'm going to change it. And if I can look ahead and see some issues, I'm going to get ahead of those now. I don't want to be the guy who's this, and this. So I'm going to make sure I actively am training for these things. I don't want to have nothing to do when my kids are going to school. So my wife and I are planning these adventures and these trips and these things. It's almost like a jarring shock to the system of people who just let life come at them and smack them in the face all the time.
You know what also would be nice? I just thought it. If you could ask the writer back, well, how has your experience been?
Yeah.
Like if you're talking to someone who has not experienced what you're experiencing, regardless of whether they're not a mother, they're not a father, they're not married, they haven't gone through empty nesting. And I'm not saying that every writer, author, speaker that every coach has to have had to play the game. Also, like, you don't have to play in the NBA to a coach in the NBA. However, it would be nice. It really would. It does kind of bridge the gap, so to speak, when there's some commonality around, oh, you had that experience, or, oh, I had the different experience, or, oh, I didn't think of it that way, but you went through it, or I went through overall. And excuse me, I think we're seeing that a lot now, that there's misalignment between the writers and the subjects.
Well,
or the publishers and the readers, or the editors and the audience. And there's disassociation. And when there's significant disassociation, it becomes much more challenging, I think, to be open to those different perspectives from maybe your own, because you've never experienced it at all.
Well, right. Like our whole thing, right? We live and die for midlife men, by midlife men. That is literally us. Everybody who writes for us is a midlife man. Everybody we highlight is a midlife man. And it is a different story. I don't remember the name of the woman who wrote the article. And maybe she's married or maybe she's not. It doesn't really even matter. But if a woman calls and says to you, hey, I'm making up a name. I don't remember her name. Susie Smith. And you ask, oh, how are you? How are you? Oh, I'm 28, not married yet. I'm doing this story on this. I'm Jim Smith. I'm 52. I've been married for 24 years. I'm doing this article on guys like us. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, this guy has lived at least some version of what I have. This article is going to make sense. It's going to have the perspective of someone who's walked in my shoes. And I don't think you can editorially bridge that gap.
It's very hard. I don't think you editorially can do it either. I think there is a time and a place for people with very different experiences and backgrounds and perspectives to come together. You could call those panels. You could call those workshops. Here's what I'm going to this specifically to hear different POVs from different people. And then there's also a time where okay, I want to hear from people like me, maybe a little bit out ahead, maybe like somewhere, around, okay, that I get this. This is what I want to know. I want to know how to train at 50. I want to know how to parent at 50. I want to know how to it's very difficult to get that from people that have not or are not doing that.
Yeah, that I think comes down, it shows through, and you combine that with, like you mentioned, some laziness and some I hate to use the word agenda, but some preconceived notions by the writers, by the editors of what the readers would want to read. New York Times, national brand, aging readership, aging level of interest, not exactly the midlife male, active, high achiever, do cool stuff with cool people audience. So again, not a perfect overlap. I would have been shocked if it was an amazing story or even a balanced story, but it shares as a reminder to in stark contrast where we sit in the landscape of media, specifically who we're for planting our flag. And I think it's really important because when you look at all these places, we're both, I would say, very online people. And the number of stories that are positive about guys over 40 doing things with their family or their business or whatever are so small. It's always men behaving badly and guys doing this and midlife crisis and the loneliness epidemic and the guys are miserable and what happened to men that it's when we can call it out, have a firsthand experience with it, we have to take advantage of it. And that's what this is.
And I'll close it out by saying, look, I don't have interest in fixating or focusing on the men who are behaving badly.
No, I
don't have an interest in spending a lot of time trying to convert individuals with agendas who don't associate with the manner in which we are trying to make the most out of our lives. Everyone can make their choices and have their opinions and their as we can have ours. So I think that's the beauty of the free marketplace right now. And being able to actually write and be able to talk and to be able to do these things. And I think you take the high road on these things. And now I will simply say, I have been featured in the New York Times for the second time. And take it and say thank you for the opportunity to be included, and thank you for the opportunity to have a platform where I can now write exactly what I think about the piece that you put out in that way. And we can shine our light on the things that we really want to, the way that we want to. And maybe they come back around with another writer and another type of piece.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's fluid. It's all fluid, yeah. And by the way, if they thought they could get clicks and money for it, they would 100% come around. It's not exactly a high integrity mission statement over there at this point. It is what gets clicks and how can we get people's.
Exactly.
So that is this week's issue of Midlife Lately. Going through that story, I thought it was really important, timely, topical, especially for us, but also for media in general. So as you watch, subscribe. All the links are right in the show notes. Subscribe to Midlife Male. You get a free definitive Midlife Male action plan. Follow Greg, follow myself. The number one thing is subscribe and like and follow on YouTube here.
And here's the last thing I'll just say. Go read the original article. Go read the original empty nesting article. Go read the Times article, and then go read the follow-up. They're good reads. And then, you know what? Let us know what you think and how you see it, because we always are interested in our feedback and in hearing, from you guys about the stuff that we put out. That's what makes this fun for all of us too. So thank you.